I'm not stopping the day job to do social media and get distracted from it. I put stuff up on the internet as factual information of my art. If I put my art and you don't like it, I don't give a shit. And if you like it, I kind of don't give a shit either. And the reason I say that is because what I put up on the internet is finished. That's the cover. That's the toy. That's the video game box. We're not altering it. I'm not asking for your approval. That's the finished product.
This episode is sponsored by Safe, the account abstraction leader on Ethereum. All right, everyone, welcome to Gen C. This is Cannes week, so Avery is on the French Riviera, enjoying, hopefully, some champagne on a yacht with everyone else in the advertising industry. I am stuck here in New York, but have the pleasure of bringing on an incredible guest, someone we've been trying to bring onto the podcast for a while, Todd McFarlane. Todd, for those of you who don't know, was at one point pretty much the most successful comic book artist out there. He helped create the characters Venom, amongst many other characters, and then also broke off to create Image Comics, which was the most successful independent comic brand out there, still number 3 behind Marvel and DC. Also started McFarlane Toys, one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world, has done movies, has done TV, and has recently also been utilizing blockchain and digital collectibles, both for himself as an artist, but also for a bunch of the IP that he works on. So we have a wide-ranging conversation ahead of myself talking with Todd about all of his thoughts on the creator economy, what it means to be a creator and an artist, building brands, building businesses, and also, utilizing sort of non-traditional techniques to help build your personal business. There's some great stories in this. And then finally, which I think is really fascinating to hear his approach to blockchain, crypto, and why it matters, both for himself, but also why he and the folks over at McFarlane and their sub-brand Oddkey are building in the space. So right after the break, we'll be back with Todd McFarlane. Safe is enabling ownership for all with smart accounts. With over 100 billion in total value stored across over 14 networks, Safe accounts are embedded everywhere, including DeFi Saver, WorldCoin, Dracula app, and more. Build and use the most battle-tested smart account in Ethereum. Visit safe.global. All right, we're here with the one and only Todd McFarlane. Todd, I don't want to even speak for all the different things that you've done. So for our audience, just give them the 30-second, who is Todd McFarlane? What are you up to? And where do you come from?
A quick overview of the career. Broke into comic book. That was my first job at Marvel Comic Books. Sort of ping-ponged a little bit between Marvel and DC, and then sort of hit my stride doing the Hulk, and then eventually redefining and setting sales records on Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. They gave me my own book at that point that set some records that still stands today. And then after a while, 7 of us left Marvel, bit disenchanted, started our own comic company. I mean, everybody knows Marvel and DC, but if you ask the next natural question, who's number 3, that would be our company, Image Comics, and we have been for over 30 years. And then at the beginning of starting Image Comics and helping to co-found Image Comic Books back in 92, a couple years later, because I came out with a character called Spawn that set records. So I hold the record both on the corporate side of the fence and the non-corporate side of the fence for a single creator on the book. I decided to start a toy company because I thought there were 4 pillars I wanted to start with, which was TV, movie, video games, and toys. When I created Spawn, and I couldn't quite figure out the 4th one on toys, so I just did it myself. Not that I had any ambition to be in that business, but I start companies sometimes when I get mad. And then we just done some stuff off and on in video games and movies, and I've directed music videos, and somewhere along the line won an Emmy and a Grammy for doing goofy stuff. And so I'm a jack of all trades, Sam. Some would argue a master of none, but that's okay. And I've just been at it for a long time. And now this Spawn comic book is a few years back set a Guinness Book of World Record for the longest running creator-owned book ever. So
I mean, when I hear that, it's like an artist, an entrepreneur, a world builder. I mean, do you define yourself as any one thing, or is part of the ethos that you try to just do it all?
I think look at when I first started, I was by myself in a room, right? When you're doing comic books, like they give you your job and you're in a room with yourself for 12 hours. Okay. So you have a lot of thoughts going through your mind. Fast forward, when you start companies, you start hiring people and getting stuff done and expanding your possibilities become more of a group thing. And I'm hoping that one of the skills I've acquired somewhat over the years is knowing where my weaknesses are and trying to find people who can fill those weaknesses so you have a strong team, maybe win a championship someday, right? So I'm a sports guy, so this is how you build winners, right? You make sure that you don't have any holes anyplace. And because of that, then you just do what you got to do. And as you move forward, you don't, like at the beginning when it was just me, Todd, in a room, I could just go, man, what would I like to do? And I would just do it. I don't have that luxury anymore, Sam. I'm also, frustratingly, I'm also a CEO. And so
Right.
there's Todd the artist at the beginning of every thought process, which is like, oh man, that'd be cool. I could do this, and then it has to go through the process, and then I have to come in and go, Todd, the artist, is this practical for the company? And does it make any sense? What that also means is that I don't have to do things that only Todd likes, which is what I did at the very beginning, right? So, for example, I'll give you an example. We did a bunch of NASCAR toys, right? Never watched a NASCAR race in my life, right? But I understood that there were plenty of people that did, and so I have a tendency of I'm a non-believer in the adage of the movie that came out, baseball movie came out and said, "Build it and they'll come," right? Field of Dreams. I don't
Right.
believe it. I think it's a lie. I think they're duping you. If you're going to be an entrepreneur or business person, you build it, you find where a bunch of humans are, you get in front of them and you make them run you over, right? You got to get noticed and you got to get in their way. You can't assume they're going to find you. You have to find the humans. And so to some extent, with all that said, that was part of the conversations that we had of how we got eventually into crypto.
Mm.
There's a group of people over there, and we can either choose to ignore that or not. And I chose not to ignore it.
We're definitely going to get into the crypto and blockchain stuff soon. I wanted to stay on some of the early stuff because I was thinking about this. I grew up as a comic book nerd and I loved it. And when I was thinking back to those times pre-internet, people followed their favorite bands. You know, people had the sports personalities that they loved. But I remember those moments in time where people started to know who the artists were who were drawing the characters they loved in comic books. And it created this following of yourself and a couple of others where people really just loved the work of these incredible artists and creators. And now, fast forward, we live in a world where, you know, whether you're an illustrator or a photographer, the ecosystem supports people doing creative things and being recognized and being able to make a living on it. But back when you were starting,
Yeah.
that wasn't really the
No,
reality. So
no, no. So here's what happened really quickly. And again, I could argue I was sort of at the right place at the right time. I was like, if
yeah,
I was born 10 years earlier, 10 years later, my career may be a fraction of what it is today. When I was collecting, right? So let's go back into the 70s then. When I was collecting in the early 80s, I recognized art styles of comic books. So I could look at comic books and there were a nice handful of people that I go, oh, that's so and so's work. Now,
mm,
gun to my head, I didn't know what that person looked like. I knew that that was a Neil Adams artwork. That was a John Byrne artwork. That was a Gil Kane artwork, Jack Kirby artwork. Didn't really know what they looked like. So we got to the point where when we broke in and there was like a new generation of us that were coming into the business, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Rob Liefeld, myself, and we created some big characters from Marvel. I co-created Venom and Rob Liefeld created Cable and Deadpool and things like that. And we were getting our own fan base. A magazine came in that was called Wizard. And Wizard was essentially kind of a little bit like the internet. It's just that it was in magazine form. And what they had was favorite cover artists, favorite penciler, favorite writers, and they had the top 10. And then what they did that nobody had done up to that point, they actually put a picture of what you looked like next to it. And
mm,
that was really as simple and as magical as it was, because then people knew the name, just like I knew the name of the people that I liked their artwork. I just could have walked by them on a street and not known it. But now you could have a magazine that was pretty popular that actually had your face on it. Then very shortly thereafter, this thing called the internet starts to boom. And now you can have social media and you can have your picture everywhere and people can Google and whatever else. So
Right.
recognizing your favorites is way easier now than obviously it was back then. But like I said, I got in just at the cusp, but that was just starting to blow up.
Well, and the sort of existential question I was thinking about with this, which when before the internet, before all that expectation was there, you guys could really do your work, and obviously you're on deadlines and everything. Now, being a creator as a career is something aspired to by all these kids, but I don't know if they understand, is it good or bad for the creative process to always have to meet the expectation of more content, more engagement? Or is that something that fuels it, do you think, or is that something that takes away from it?
Sam, I think it depends on how efficient you are at it. So if you have to do your book anyways and you've got 20 pages, you've got the content already because you're making it because that's your job, right? I'm making toys, I'm making comic book. Every now and then on social media, I just go, here's a piece of that. Here's a piece of it. So I'm not stopping the day job to do social media and get distracted from it, right? I'm not trying to be an influencer or be famous for being famous. I put stuff up on the internet as factual information of my art, which is part, again, a whole nother conversation we can have another day of how you deal with media and how you deal with, and I've said before, hope it's not offensive to anybody. If I put my art and you don't like it, I don't give a shit. And if you like it, I kind of don't give a shit either. And the reason I say that is because what I put up on the internet is finished. That's the cover. That's the toy. That's the video game box. We're not altering it. I'm not asking for your approval. That's the finished product. I'm giving you some information. That's what it looks like. That's the price. And that's when it comes out. Now, you can choose to do whatever you want with your life. And if you like it and want to support it, good on you. I appreciate it. And I've had a nice, good following of people who support. And if you don't, then I'd stay away from that thing I just showed you. But telling me that you like it or you don't like it, I'm not altering a single line on anything that I'm showing you. So it's easy for me to not get caught up in it because it doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It's done.
Right.
It's done, Sam. I've got deadlines. I've got, by the time you tell me you like it, I'm on to the next thing. Right. So I can't go backwards. And here's the thing that's interesting too, Sam. I've said it too. You don't have to tell me whether you like it or not because I'm going to know because I'm going to get data on the sales. And if sales start going down, I have to basically sit and go, man, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing different? What are we doing that people don't like? And then if it's going up, then we have to assume that what we're doing, people like. So we should probably continue to do it.
But Todd, the idea of co-collaboration with your audience is not really in your consideration set. You're like, let me be who I am and bring it to you. And if you like it, you're going to let me know because you're going to buy it.
I'm not looking for approval. I use social media differently than other people. I'm not looking for likes and clicks and whatever. I'm using it as a billboard. Here it is. And it's up to you. Like I've said look at the name's Todd only rhymes with God, right? I control one human being on this planet, me. I can't force anybody to like my stuff. I can't force anybody to buy my stuff. I don't have that power. Wish I did. I don't. So it's up to you. All I can do is show you what I think is quality work. And then you decide for yourself as a consumer whether it's something that you would enjoy. And again, I've said to my critics for 30 years, Sam, to the point that I'm boring with it, that when people sort of criticize my artwork, the answer is the same. Then you should spend your time and your money on things that you personally enjoy. Done. Solved it. I fixed it for you. Right? I'm not here to say, like, here's the thing. I don't need 8 billion, and I'm not just me, but most people, we don't need 8 billion. This is the false thing that people are paying attention to. I don't need 8 billion people to like my stuff. I need enough people to like it so that I can pay the bills and continue to do it again. And I've been able to find enough people, Sam, luckily, for 40 years. So I don't need everybody. That was never the goal. I just need enough. And luckily I've had enough.
I love that. I want to talk a little bit about how you got into the idea of collectibles and toys. And, I was reading about you were collecting everything from home run baseballs from Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa back in the 90s. It sounds like you're an avid collector of things. And then with McFarlane Toys, you also, what I really loved when I first started to notice them out in the world, were they weren't the traditional toys anymore. We started to see other types of IP that suddenly was in toy form, which became more cultural, I would say, than there's fandoms everywhere.
Yep.
But instead of seeing traditional Spider-Man and Superman, now you see Game of Thrones, or you see Dune, or you see whatever it might be, or UFC. So what do you think is the sort of psychology around people who love collecting things, and it made you feel like I wanted to spend time in the toy business?
Well, like I said, I never thought I'd be in the toy business. So both of those things you just talked about, the home run ball and getting in the toy business, ironically kind of tie together. When I started the Spawn comic book, right? So we left Marvel, we started Image Comics, third largest company. We each of the co-founders, there were 6 of us at that point, had to come up with our own book. I came up with Spawn, right? He's been around now for 30 years. For people who are 31, 32 or younger, you've never been on the planet without that word existing. So attrition is a value. But Spawn came out, it set records. It was the number one selling book in the industry. So you can imagine,
As an independent specifically as well, correct?
yeah, I mean, bigger than any Marvel and DC
Exactly, yeah.
industry comic books. So you can imagine that there's a wide range of people who basically license products and make products. So all of a sudden the door was knocking and people saying, "Hey man, can I make t-shirts and hats and everything, right? Like pajamas." And I'm like, it's a book from a guy from the pit of hell. Or like you might want to read the book. And I think that a lot of people when they came knocking, they just saw that it was above Batman and Spider-Man and Superman. And so they went, "Oh my gosh, I can just put it into the same formula." To me, the answer was no, because it was, I thought, a little bit slightly mature book. I don't think you want to put it on your Crayola crayon. And eventually, when they did their homework, they didn't come back, the right people. But one of the areas, and I thought of the 4 that I thought: TV, movie, video games, and toys, one that came there, all the public Fortune 500 companies came and knocked on the door. And a couple of them made some pretty aggressive advances in terms of showing me what they wanted to do and putting money on the table and stuff. I just didn't feel, Sam, that they were going to make a toy any different than the way they'd been making it. Nor should they, arguably, in hindsight. They're a billion-dollar company. They have a formula. It works. It makes them $1 billion. But I thought that since I was doing a non-traditional character with non-traditional stories at a slightly older audience, that we needed to make non-traditional looking toys and sell them in non-traditional places. And I'm talking about places at that time like Babbage's and Tower Records and Virgin Records and all these KB Toys. All these places don't exist anymore, but that they were there, right? Don't put them into the standard 3 spots that you normally put all of your toys that you sell to 6-year-olds and to moms. I need something different. It needs to look different. It needs to be sold in a different spot. They weren't willing to make that adjustment, and nor should they, because that's just not their sweet spot. They make billions catering to moms and 6-year-olds across the board. So I just went, okay, how hard is it to make a toy? And I made a few phone calls and I found a few people. And next thing you know, we were at Toy Fair and I didn't even have a sample. And I ended up getting Toys R Us, at that point was the biggest toy buyer, to come and buy the product based on a promise and put it store wide. And once Toys R Us did it, who was the leader of toys, then Kmart and Walmart and Target just soon fell into place, and it went like that. Now again, doesn't usually happen that easily, especially if you don't even have a prototype, but that got me off the ground. And I've been able to sell again enough over the last 30 years. We're celebrating our 30th anniversary this year in the toy business. And we've been doing it ever since. So where's the baseballs coming? Again, I'm a collector, but usually I buy like a lot of $10, $20 items. The McGuire ball, I spent way more than that. As a matter of fact, I spent a record amount by far on any sports memorabilia ever purchased. If you look at the pay for the ball, most people scratch their head and go, and just so everybody knows, by the time it was paid for with tax and license and sort of the house fee for the auction house, it was just a hair over $3 million, right? Nobody had ever spent $1 million on anything. Just so you know, I cobbled together every last red cent I had to be able to basically buy it. Now, 3 years later, Barry Bonds broke the record So again, if it was buying it because I was a collector and I wanted to have the record ball, it was a bad investment, only lasted 3 years. If it was to try and make a profit on it, well, given that nobody had even spent $500,000 on anything, and I paid 6 times the amount, wasn't going to get that, especially after it wasn't even a record ball anymore. Here's what it was. There's a couple adages. One of them is stick to what you know. I know sports. My schooling at university got paid for on a baseball scholarship. I was a top tier athlete, played at Pac-10 level. So I'm sort of a sports geek too. And so I wanted to get into the sports figure business because I thought that what was out on the shelf, just like superhero toys, were bad. Like, again, I got into the toy business because I basically asked one question: why can't they just look better? Why can't somebody make a better toy? And so I sort of said the same thing. I like sports. I love baseball. I played baseball, but I will not give you 1 red cent for those baseball figures because they are insulting to me. So I wanted to do them better. I thought I could do them better as a toy, but now you have to be able to get Major League Baseball or the NBA or the NFL to even let you in a room. I'm a nobody. I'm a schmuck. And so how do you get the attention of the big boys when they're playing poker? You just got to pony up the ante. And you got to, if you're going to play at the big boy table, you got to pony up the ante. And the ante was, oddly, the $3 million for the ball. Because why? Because that got me screaming headlines nationally for months. I was the expert sports memorabilia guy. I was the guy who was crazy enough to buy all that. I knew something nobody else did. And even though I big board and stole every single penny I could to get there, people will read that headline and go, that guy must be successful. He's got so much money. He's buying balls for $3 million. So now when I said I'd like to take a meeting with them, they took the meeting because they said, don't know who he is, but he must be successful. He's got that kind of money. Bring him in. And in short order, I got football, baseball, basketball, and hockey
from that investment.
And I can tell you, I've made it over tenfold. Like, this is the thing that people will go, what's weird to me is you spend $3 million on a Super Bowl ad, nobody says anything to you. If I spent $4 million manufacturing toys last month, which I did, nobody bats an eye. But you spend $3 million on a baseball and everybody has a heart attack. Well, not if it's advertising, not if you put it under advertising or marketing. And the marketing was, how can I get into this game? And so it was going to cost me money to get into the game. That was just the marketing. Oh, by the way, I still got the damn ball. So at least I got it. And from time to time, I still do interviews and people talk about it. So I get to amortize the cost every time I get to talk about it again and again. If I had spent $3 million on a Super Bowl ad 20 years ago, you think anybody even remembers? No, of course not. Of course not. So, okay. Now, years later, I ended up buying the Barry Bonds ball because it's like you never want to walk into a room and say you've got the second best of anything. So I got the Barry Bonds ball. But again, it's kind of cool because I now, if you look at the home run record book and you go most home runs ever in a season, in a single season, it's Barry Bonds 73, Mark McGwire 70, Sammy Sosa 66. I have all three. So anyways, it was a backwards way of getting to where I needed to get to without having to play by the rules of the game that if I was a public company, I couldn't play that game. I used my gut instincts and said, I think if I buy this ball, I think I'll get their attention. If I get their attention, I got a chance of maybe getting a license.
What I love is the foresight of thinking, yeah, this is an area I want to get into. I'm having a hard time running up against walls, trying to figure it out. Utilizing creative technique, creative tactics that gets you
or a back door.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always a back door. I am the king of finding back doors because the front doors are usually bolted or there's a bunch of people at the front door. If you go down the back alley and you go through the back door, sometimes it's way easier to get in.
I love that as a general life lesson also. So thank you for sharing that. I guess I want to use that to pivot to, you've spent 30 years now in the toy business with all these amazing products. And then you are getting into the digital collectible business, and you and your son have Oddkey, which is all, focused on kind of NFTs and how you can utilize that as an art technique and ownership technique to connect more with fans. So yeah, like what was your transitional moment of saying physical, I spent a lot of time in that game, but now digital from a collectible side, from an art side is where I want to start looking at.
While first the possibility was now there on a big scale. And so if we just pull back the lens first off, preceding NFTs was crypto and cryptocurrency, right? That
Mhm.
like that was there. And again, I guess you can pick your pony in that race. You can either decide that it's a fad, or you can say, I think it's here to stay. Right? I'm in the second. I'm in the second bucket. I remember for a long time when rap music started. I'm old enough to remember when it came. People who didn't get it were like, "Wow, I don't understand it. They're not even singing. What the hell is this? It's never gonna last." And here we are, 50 years later, and it's still going. So
Mhm.
I understand you personally don't like it. That one is just everybody is allowed to basically consume what they want and enjoy what they want. But to say that that somehow because you don't like it that it's not valid is a mistake. And I think first off, the bet of crypto being around, I almost bet the farm on that one. Right? It's hard for me to see this thing diminishing. If anything, I could give you way more reasons why it possibly is going to grow and potentially grow exponentially. But it's not going away anytime soon if that's what people are hoping for. So, given that there is now a group of people who play in that pool, and the thing that's kind of cool about it is it seems to be kind of youth driven, that it's the new generation, the rebellion, like power to the people that are there, then it's like, okay, this is curious. What's there that maybe makes sense for what it is that I do during my day job? And the answer is just going, oh, there's ways for people to collect quote unquote digital art, which is what I call it, right? I mean, I like when I talk to people, Sam, and I know you and I in the right room with the right people, we can use different vernacular and different words.
Mhm.
But when I'm dealing with laymen, I call it digital art. Again, I can explain what an NFT is. I'll explain to you what cryptocurrency, but it's just digital art in a digital form. Done. And if you don't know what that is, just take a look at your gallery and you've got lots of
Right.
pictures, and every one of those photos is digital art. So you've got it. Every human being's already got it. So you just go, it's just sort of like your gallery on your iPhone. Cool. Okay, they get that. Then they ask the next question. If you're a bit of an older person, fuddy duddy, and remember, these are the same old people that didn't want to give their credit card over the internet because
Right.
like somebody was going to come and burn down their house and steal all the cats. So if they just were more honest, if people would just say it's not for me, good on everybody, but it's not for me, that would be an easier one. But they just go, it's stupid, it's dumb, I don't know why. Like, who cares? Like, who cares that somebody's favorite color is blue and yours is red? Who cares? Why do you care who Taylor Swift is dating? I
Right.
don't understand why you have to have an opinion. Just don't consume it. Don't do it. Don't advocate for it. Don't take it home. But there is a group of people who enjoy that. Just like they enjoy certain movies that you don't, and certain TV shows, and certain music. Just get out of the way and let these people enjoy it. And they like this thing called crypto in all forms, whether it's art, whether it's currency, whatever else. It's there. So I also know that somebody who has shipped toys, I've said before, there's a couple of reasons why people would buy digital art. One, they just like it. And I think that's probably, I think 85%, they just like it. And then there's a small portion that it's cost prohibitive to ship something physically to different parts of the country. You can buy a
Mhm.
$40 toy, it will cost you 150 to ship it. You can't have a big massive collection. You can't be a geek like we can. And this is the piece, people that don't get crypto, that don't get sort of web3 and all that other stuff, they're applying their life and their experience on other people around the globe. And it's not, this is the fallacy that we make as humans almost 99% of the time when we have any conversation. We all think we came from the same experience. The person we're talking to came from the exact same experience that we did. The reason why we have political strife in America is because somebody was born in Alabama and somebody was born in that hippie town in California. Those are not the same experiences. So the reason that they have different viewpoints is because they were raised in different places and they were fed different things, right? I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying that's how. What you keep getting frustrated with, hippie, is that you want this redneck to basically be a hippie and the redneck wants the hippie to be a redneck. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You guys are on different sides of the same mountain and you keep turning around. We're seeing the same thing. You're just in different part. Crypto is the same thing. This argument's the same thing. So some people need it because, again, it's cost prohibitive to get it physically. And then other people, where it's not cost prohibitive, live in places, and Tokyo is a great example, where you only have a 400-foot apartment and you can't have 100 toys or 100 comic books, 2 long boxes of comics or a video game setup. You can't. You got 400 feet. You need a refrigerator and you need a chair, arguably a bed, and that takes up the whole thing. So there's only 2 possibilities with those people. If it's too cost prohibitive or you don't have the space, you either don't get to be part of the party that we're in, which is geekdom, or you have to figure an alternate way. And that's all some of this is. It's an alternate way for some people, a small portion, to be involved in something they otherwise couldn't be involved in. And then the other people are in for their own personal enjoyment, for whatever that may be. It's not for us to decide why somebody likes any kind of vegetable. I wish people would live life like they do grocery shopping. You just put in, there's thousands of options, and you put in your cart the things that you like personally and want to consume, and you just ignore and walk by the other things. Why can't you do that the rest of your life when you walk out the grocery store? Don't like crypto? Walk away from it. Don't put it in your cart. If you do, put it in your cart to the level, how many you want to put and to what amount of money you want to spend on that. That's up to you too.
Todd, let me ask you the question, because I think, we're in full agreement there on the crypto side. When people talk about the digital art piece, the sort of not old being a year or 2 ago, is, I can just screenshot this and I don't need to own because I can just put it on my phone. But as someone, again, who's made things that people collect, that people want, that people value, you have some of the most valuable cover art in the comic world is yours. The idea of it being traceable, I go to Drip House, I take, I buy a Todd piece or I collect a Todd piece. I know that this is a Todd McFarlane because there's also a chain that directs me from my piece to you. And I guess, is that also part of the equation that inspires you?
Yeah. So Sam, and I understand that first comment, which is like, I can just do a screenshot of it, which is why the vast majority of the stuff that we do at Oddkey had animation to it. So it moved. You can't screen grab that. And the only way you're going to get the animation is if you get it. I guess if somebody wants to film it and post it on YouTube, and you can do it that way, I guess. But if you're buying it for a collection and you think down the line there may be some resale value, then there's only going to be 2 versions you can try and sell. The one that you did a screen grab of, which you have no authentication of that it's legit, or something that basically is tangible and has a tracking number on it, right? So I don't know. And so again, if your complaint is that you could just take a screen grab, then it's like, there's probably next to nothing I'm going to say that's going to convince you. Even if I tell you how this all works and how you can trace it and all that, it's still not going to make any sense to you. So either that's important and you think that this subculture is kind of cool and that there's sort of a value into it for you personally, or you just don't get it, like rap music, so you don't listen to it. So, okay. But if somebody just said it was like, I think it's dumb, and just walked away, I could almost, but they get so passionate, they almost don't want it to exist. And when somebody doesn't want something to exist, then you cross a line that gets the hair up on my back. That's called censorship. Like, what are you talking about? Just stop it. Stop it. We're having a good time. We're having a party here. And oh, by the way, on the crypto side, if you're paying attention, which you're not, government's starting to sanction all this, right? And once the government sanctions it, which they have, and it gets bigger and even more sanctioned globally, once the government backs it, you think that makes it something that's going to get smaller? No. Once there's the smell that somebody can make money, which is why now somebody wanted to put it up on a stock exchange, right? They can give all their altruistic reasons for it, but somewhere along the line, we live in a capitalist society, somebody just went, and we can make money. So somebody's then saying, hey, you need to certify this so that we can make money, because we're in a money-making business, because we're in a capitalist society. So whether you like all of that as a truism or not, that's, again, another lengthy conversation you and I can have. But that's the world we live in today. So the government is going to back it. The government is backing it. And the government, the only thing they're going to try and do is to make sure that it's prudent and I don't want to say safe because that's not really the right word, but it works for the people who are using it from beginning to end. Why? Because we saw what happened with FTX. They don't want that to happen again. They don't want that to happen again. But I got to tell you, when that did happen and crypto crashed, that's when we started doing a lot of stuff, lot more stuff, right? I learned a long time ago. Warren Buffett said, "All right, you buy when there's blood on the street." That basically means when everybody's afraid, go. And so we were doing a lot of stuff because why? It was easy for we deal on OnKey with Solana. It was easy for people to like go, "Oh yeah, I'll buy that for one Solana." Why? Because Solana was 17, $18. They're like, $18, Todd, man, I don't understand why you're not charging two. And now, I mean, again, it's taken a dip. So Solana is about 135, 140 this week. So we grabbed our Solana at $20 and it's gone up sevenfold, right? If you're
Yeah.
looking to be an investor, and I'm not saying that's why you should be in this game, but if that's part of your game, I don't know. There's not that many stocks that went up 700% in the last year. Then you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and we'll have a good time. And oh, by the way, the bigger thing for me, Sam, the more eyeballs I can reach and talk to about my art, and more specifically about the word spawn, the better it is for me in the long run. Because why? I might have another comic, another toy. Hopefully, the movie comes out here not too soon. And people go, "Oh, that was that thing I heard about. Oh, that's that guy who did that. I heard." And if the reason you heard that word was because it was in the crypto space, I don't care. I
Right.
don't
It's just
care.
another audience to talk to.
Just my party, I'm like 7-Eleven. The doors are always open. I've got lots of doors. I don't care if you come through the comic door, the tour door, the entertainment, the video game door, the crypto door. I don't care how you come in. And then once you come in the house, then go to the room you want to that you're most comfortable with and hang out with the people you're most comfortable with. Cool. I just want you in the house, the big house of McFarlane slash Spawn.
Right.
So
The universe. And I think also, Todd, there's a lot of synergies between all of these different worlds because I think about I minted my first Bitcoin in 2014 and I still have it. I just, like many people who early Bitcoin, you just never wanted to get rid of it. And even if it fluctuates here and there, which is not that dissimilar that if I have Spawn number 1 or I have X-Men 94 or what, like, any of these things, they have a value to me, which to me also relates to, yeah, I have one of 100 of this watch or I have one of 1,000 of this. And here's also my certificate that says this one's mine, right? So I think all of it feels the idea of provenance and collectability and traceability and all of this really has a value to the people who care, and the people who don't, yeah, they're going to buy the knockoff because it doesn't matter to them. But to those who want to say, hey, this is legitimate and that's a badge for me,
yeah.
seems to be the people who also really align to this ethos of I want the thing that also has the McFarlane toy stamp on it because I also know it's of a quality level and it's of an ethos that I believe in.
Sam, I would add, and we don't know, let's come back in 5 years. I would add that the value of how to use and exchange and be resourceful with any crypto in the next 5 years still may alter. The value that we have today may actually grow as sort of the usage of it grows. And it may then hit points where people who were reluctant or tepid about only having like, maybe a toe in the water, you go, "Oh, it now allows me to do that. Oh, okay. Well, I'm in now." Right? I'm in now. And again, the bad example is the people that were afraid to put their credit card number on the internet. Once somebody came out and said, "Hey, here's a security lock, and we basically promise you that they're not going to be able to get your credit card," then people were like, "Oh, okay, I'll trust you, and now I'll jump in." And then once they jumped in, they saw that it was useful because now they could buy stuff off Amazon, not have to leave the house, and they're going, "Oh, okay, this actually works." I still think that we're in the wild west of crypto. I still think that we're going to look back at this place at this time that you and I are talking about and go, "Man, if we'd only knew then what we know now, like
For sure.
we could have done this would have worked way faster and way better than what it was." I don't think we know what we know yet.
Mm.
Even on the art side, that what people know on the art side, digital art, is what we are offering them. And people, I think, on the art side, we should continue to experiment and we should continue to try and show new ideas and see if any of it has any merit. The good ideas will then take hold and go, and the other ones will basically sort of die a slow death. But this is true for sort of anything in any industry, in any sort of movement of time, of efficiencies and experimenting. It's why we're here. And if you get stodgy and you go, no, I think we know everything and we have all the answers, IBM, then you're going to have this young kid in the garage named Steve Jobs, and he's going to go, yeah, I got this little thing called Apple Computer, and you're going to let them eat your lunch. Right? I saw it in my own industry, toys. When I was in college, the number one biggest retail store was Kmart. I don't even know if they exist. If they do, you can count them on fingers. Boom, gone. Toys R Us, when I started in the toy business, was the number one toy company. Boom, they're gone. Walmart, the biggest retailer. And I remember I was going, dude, you need to buy more on your website, because there's this thing called Amazon. It's coming. They chose to ignore it. Boom. Somebody is always going to figure, if you get lazy and you get complacent. And I've said before, like the thing with big companies, the only people that can take Walmart down is Walmart. And the only people that can take Amazon down is Amazon. They'll just get lazy. And then somebody's going to come on and show a sexier, better way of doing it. And boom, and here we go. And it's been happening since the dawn of man. Like somebody just upgrades the idea. Hey, you got a wheel, but it's made out of a rock. What if we made it out of rubber? They're just efficiency. I think that crypto is going to show us ways of being efficient, or at least a portion of us will go for the right. So
I was paying attention. Todd, thank you so much for all the time. Really enjoyed this conversation. Would love to continue it again at some point. And we are going to be tracking all the things you guys are doing at McFarlane when it comes to crypto, toys, games, movies, comic books, TV, the whole thing. I really appreciate you spending time with us today.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the time. I wish you the best of luck and hope to see you in person someday.